In the heart of a land lost in time, where the Euphrates River meandered through fertile plains and golden sands, Babylon stood tall, shining like a jewel of the ancient world. There, in the midst of a city surrounded by colossal walls and towers that reached to the sky, stood an unparalleled wonder. The hanging gardens of ℍ𝕒𝕚𝕚𝕚, creation born of love, but also of the desire to defy nature. These legendary gardens were built at the behest of Nebuchadnezzar II for his wife, Amytis, queen of Media to Amytis, who had left the cool mountains of her country to live in burning Babylon. The gardens were more than a place of refuge. They were a bridge between past and present, a reminder of his roots and a declaration of endless love. Every verdant terrace, every towering tree and every exotic flower was a testament to man's power to recreate paradise on earth. But beyond their beauty, the gardens hid secrets. Stories of love and betrayal, triumphs and downfalls. They were the silent witnesses of royal ambitions, divine mysteries and inevitability of change. Under the starry sky of Babylon, these gardens became the scene of unforgettable moments, of boundless passion, but also of imminent disaster. The sun pours its rays over the fragrant terraces, and the warm wind brings the whispers of the river. The story of the hanging gardens reveals, ℍ is a story about beauty and loss, about the ephemeral glory of man, and about the eternal power of nature. Chapter 1. Introduction to the fascinating world of Babylon. In Babylon, the city that shone like a jewel in the heart of the desert, the mornings were of unparalleled beauty. On such a morning, the hanging gardens, a masterpiece of love and engineering, resounded with the peaceful silence of nature. King Nebuchadnezzar II and his queen, Amytis of Media, began their day with a walk through this oasis that had been built as a gift to ℍ, a symbol of royal love and longing for the green hills of her native land. The gardens were a demonstration of the grandeur of Babylon, structured on several raised terraces, each of them covered with a thick layer of fertile soil. In the middle of the desert, the gardens they looked like a miracle. An artificial mountain clothed in greenery, raised to bring a corner of Media into the heart of Mesopotamia. The tall trees, brought from the sea distances, stretched their branches towards the sky, and the hanging plants formed the green curtains that descended from the edges of the terraces. The clean water, raised from the Euphrates, by an ingenious system of wheels and pumps, flowed in small rivers, feeding the artificial fountains and waterfalls that enlivened the air and hidden corners of the gardens. There were small pools where colorful water lilies floated smoothly and grasses were planted on the edges. Aromatics, rosemary, thyme and mint, which scented the morning air. The gardens were not only a royal refuge, but also a demonstration of the Babylonians' skill in architecture and agriculture. This earthly paradise was maintained by hundreds of slaves and gardeners. Each had a specific role. Some fetched water by working the water wheels, whose wooden and bronze chains constantly lifted buckets of water from the river. Others cut the plants, removed weeds, or planted seasonal flowers to keep the gardens fresh. The slaves worked in silence, moving among the greenery like shadows, always careful not to disturb the queen's peace. Another category of servants were the royal gardeners, men and women with a deep knowledge of plants and irrigation systems. They supervised all the details. If the soil had enough moisture, if the fruit trees bore fruit, and if every corner of the garden reflected the perfection dreamed of by the king. On their faces you could read the pride of a job well done, but also the burden of responsibility, because any mistake could attract the wrath of the king. Amytis of Media, the tall and graceful queen, was the soul of these gardens. Born among the green hills of Media, a land of forests and high mountains, she felt a constant longing for her native land. When she was brought to Babylon, the endless desert and overwhelming heat seemed to her foreign and hostile. But the love of her husband, Nebuchadnezzar, and the grandiosity of his project to build these hanging gardens, brought a corner of her homeland into the midst of Babylon. That morning, the queen wore a flowing dress of fine fabrics, colored an emerald green, symbolizing the hills of Media. Her long hair, held in a simple coiffure, was adorned with jasmine flowers, freshly picked by slaves at dawn. Next to her, Nebuchadnezzar walked proudly, wearing a long purple tunic and a golden crown decorated with vegetable motifs. Two walked hand in hand along the cobbled paths, covered here and there with carpets of flower petals, spread before them by slaves. Their children, a girl of 8 and a younger boy, ran among the trees and columns, laughing and throwing, and rose petals to each other. The queen smiled seeing them, and Nebuchadnezzar told her about new plans to expand the gardens, wanting to bring them more joy. The morning air was fresh, charged with the scent of flowers and aromatic herbs from a corner of the garden, where the slaves were feeding rare birds brought from the far corners of the empire. Could be heard the joyful chirping of a group of hummingbirds. Next to it, a small pavilion, covered with ivy, sheltered a singer who sang softly, accompanying his songs with the calm sound of the water flowed from a well. On one of the terraces, the slaves had arranged the royal breakfast. Fresh fruits, figs, dates and pomegranates were placed on glazed ceramic plates, and bread baked at dawn and goat's milk butter completed the meal. Pomegranate juices and honey were served in alabaster dishes, next to teas prepared from aromatic plants picked directly from the gardens. Queen Amytis savored every moment, sometimes touching the leaves plants that reminded her of Media. Every corner of the gardens was for her a refuge, a living memory of her birthplace. As the children explored the gardens, Nebuchadnezzar told them of his military expeditions and how each victory brought with it seeds, seedlings and new ideas for the gardens. After the meal, the royal family sat in a pavilion on one of the upper terraces, from where the whole city of Babylon could be seen. Under the sun that was beginning to rise on sky, the massive walls of the city and its gilded towers seemed to glitter. Queen Amytis turned her gaze to the gardens and said, in a warm but wistful voice,